Good morning and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman, and today I have Jonny Price, VP of Fundraising at Wefunder. Welcome, Jonny.
Hello, hello. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. It's so great to connect and have you here from Nashville. And I'm excited to hear what you guys are up to today and have you share a little bit about your story from the beginning and to where you are today through COVID and where your plans to go in the future.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Jonny, tell me just a little bit, how did you get involved in Wefunder?
Yeah, I grew up in the UK, started my career in management consulting over there for my sins, and then came to volunteer at this nonprofit, Kiva.org in San Francisco. And while I was there, I met my wife. So now we've been married for 10 years. And I led the US team at this nonprofit, Kiva.org, for 7 years. And then after 7 years, there was a new CEO who came in who wanted to take the program in a different direction. So that caused me to step down from running the team there. And that brought me to Wefunder in early 2018. So that's the career journey in a nutshell.
So for those of the folks that are listening today that are not familiar with Wefunder, can you tell us what is Wefunder?
Yeah, so we're an investment crowdfunding platform. So we help startup founders, entrepreneurs, and we will invest in restaurants and breweries all the way through to tech startups or someone, putting spaceships into outer space. But we help founders raise capital using a relatively new law that just passed Congress a few years ago called the Jobs Act. And this law allows you to raise capital not just from rich people or accredited investors, but also from unaccredited investors, ordinary people, your customers, your community members. They can now invest $100 in your business, and it could be a loan that you pay them back with interest, or it could be an equity investment in your business, and they're hoping that you get acquired or they get paid out in profit distributions down the years. And so we're trying to make it easier for founders to raise money on one side of the marketplace, and on the other side of the marketplace, we're trying to enable anyone to invest in startups and small businesses they love, not just rich people.
That sounds amazing. It sounds amazing both for the founder as well as for the person that gets to invest, because many people think that investing is only possible if you have a lot of money to invest. And there's a lot of great ideas that people want to support, and being able to do that at any rate, at $100, $50 or $10,000 is now possible, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, that's actually where Wefunder came from. Our founders back in 2012 were serial entrepreneurs, and they had all these smart friends that were starting companies, and they wanted to invest in them, but they didn't have $25,000 lying around, and they weren't accredited, so they weren't able to legally. And so then they started a petition and helped to get the Jobs Act through Congress. It was signed into law by President Obama in 2012. Our founders were in the Rose Garden when that happened. So firstly, now making it legal for ordinary people to invest in startups, but also, as you were saying, lowering that minimum investment from what's maybe 10K, 20K if you're usually raising money from angels, of building a technology platform that then allows founders to take checks as small as $100, which is a minimum investment on Wefunder. The mean investment is $1,000, the median is $250. But now you can be an investor in a startup on Wefunder for just $100. So lowering the barrier to entry kind of pragmatically for angel investing as well as kind of legally. It's now starting to grow very, very quickly. It's a really exciting time for this investment crowdfunding sector, actually.
And so I'd love to hear, maybe you could share a story about somebody that's come through. Maybe you can't share a name, but maybe you could share a story of a founder that maybe didn't really understand how this could help them, and how it did impact them, and how they were able to raise money in it now where they otherwise would not have been able to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one story is this brew pub in San Francisco called Lost Marbles. So I met this guy. He had a bar called Barrelhead. It was a restaurant brew pub, and he was looking at opening a second location. And I think it was kind of, for him, the two reasons he was interested in doing this on Wefunder were the two main kind of reasons why I recommend Wefunder to entrepreneurs. Firstly, for him, it was an easier way to raise capital, right? So he had a bunch of loyal customers from Barrelhead. And so when he could go to them, say, okay, we've been hanging out at the bar, you've been coming here for years, and we've built a relationship, and you have trust in me as an entrepreneur and a human. And now when I come and say, I'm opening the second place, here's the terms of the investment, he can get a lot of people to write him $1,000, $2,000 checks that otherwise he wouldn't have been able to tap into. Again, either legally or in the sense that like it's on one website and he doesn't have to regurgitate the pitch to them. They can just log onto their website and read the pitch deck and invest. So that was kind of the first value proposition for him, is like it's an easier way of raising capital. And then secondly, the people in the neighborhood where he's opening this second place, Lost Marbles Brew Pub, like he could go to them and have them invest. And if they're investors in this brew pub, then they're going to be much more likely to go there for a meal in their evenings because they're an investor, and maybe they get a free glass of wine every time they go in, or a discount on the food. There's perks that investors can get as well as the financial returns. But those are the kind of the two reasons why I found I might raise capital on Wefunder. Easier way to raise money, and then secondly, recruit your customers and potential customers as investors. And both of those worked for Ivan Hopkinson, the founder, and just a really cool kind of local story. I think they raised about maybe 400 grand, I think, for Lost Marbles on Wefunder. Just a really awesome founder, salt of the earth guy who I really enjoyed getting to know through the process of him raising on Wefunder.
Wow, that's great. So what makes someone a great candidate to raise money? Because I think that it's, from what I'm hearing from you, it sounds like loyal customers, a good audience, fans. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that, just dig into that just a bit more, so that some of our listeners and viewers could better understand what they would need to be a good candidate to potentially raise money on Wefunder.
Yeah, so I'll answer that question a little bit differently to start, which is to say the cool thing about some recent law changes to regulation crowdfunding, which is the technical term for how companies raise money on Wefunder. Law changes to regulation crowdfunding in March of 2021 that made it like much more attractive for founders. You can now raise $5 million, and we can use SPVs to roll investors to one line on the cap table. But also relevant here, you can do what's called testing the waters. So if you don't know whether you might be able to raise money from your customers and your friends and family, and by putting it out there on LinkedIn, etc., you can now launch a Wefunder campaign in 15 minutes and try to see, explore if there might be investment demand. Maybe then you have that causes you to adjust your pitch or adjust the terms that you're putting out there, and trying to persuade investors to invest on. And so you actually don't need to really kind of know the answer to that question. You can just kind of, in a lean startup way, put your fundraise out there and get the answer based on actual data versus, in a meeting room trying to figure it out. So that's kind of one way to answer the question. Probably a more direct way is I always talk about three things that will determine success on Wefunder. The first is it an amazing investment, right? So if you're pitching investors and Wefunder doesn't exist, and you're going through the standard process of having a pitch deck and taking an hour to meet with an investor over coffee and try to raise 25K checks from them, are you going to be able to raise money easily from that? Because it's just such an awesome investment opportunity, right? So if it is, it will do well on Wefunder. The second thing is kind of what you're talking about, which is the audience, right? So if you have a huge audience, Meow Wolf was a company in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and that just had an avid following that really loved them. And so when they went on Wefunder, they raised $1 million in a day, right? Or Modern Times is a brewery down in San Diego, same thing, raised $1 million in a day because their customers love their beer, right? And they had a lot of those customers. So the audience, both the size and how enthusiastic they are about your company, is also a pretty critical determinant of success. And then the third, I say, is hustle. So are you a founder that is willing to pound the pavement, take every meeting, go on every podcast, put yourself out there, email hundreds of people, be okay with rejection. Fundraising is hard, right? And now Wefunder gives you this tool where now you can use social media, and now you can use emails, and are you going to set up that email sequence, and are you going to put the hours in and come up with these creative ideas to try to raise capital? So that framework of, is it a good investment, the size and quality of the audience, and then the hustle and drive and creativity of the founder is usually my recipe for a company that's going to do very well on Wefunder.
I think
Essential Ingredients is powered by NextGen Chef. NextGen Chef is a movement that supports food and beverage entrepreneurs around the world by fostering a sense of community and providing its members access to mentors and a wealth of resources and guidance. NextGen Chef feeds members with the knowledge they need to build better for you food and beverage businesses, so the world can have greater access to healthier food, comprehensive food education, and increased affordability. If you like what you hear on this podcast, continue the conversation or ask new questions on the NextGen Chef app, available in the Apple Store and Google Play. Follow NextGen Chef on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook at NextGen Chef. Join NextGen Chef and let's change the future of the food industry together.
Wefunder.
I think those are some great tips, so that the folks listening can really dig in and start to think about whether or not they should consider Wefunder. Are there any companies or founders that this would not be a fit for?
There are certain industries that we can't do, so we're pretty restricted around, say, cannabis, for example. And our range is 50K to 5 million.
Okay.
We did just fund a company that was doing 120 million round, and they gave a $5 million allocation to their customers on Wefunder. So it can be a part of a larger round, but the range is 50K to 5 million. So if you're looking for less than 50K, it's not a good fit for you. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of founders that aren't able to persuade investors to invest in them, right? And so that isn't going to work. But the point on the testing the waters thing is, like, it's kind of hard to know, right? Like, ahead of time, oftentimes who that's going to be, and I might get it wrong.
Mhm.
So we kind of wanted to build a platform that enables founders to explore for themselves whether they can, persuade people to invest in them. So we don't have kind of minimum criteria around, for example, like, do you have a certain dollar threshold of recurring revenue, or is your product already in the marketplace? We don't have too many restrictions like that.
Talk to me a little bit more about Wefunder and where you guys are headed. Where are you guys looking to go in the next couple of years?
Yeah, well, Europe is one answer to the question, but I mean, I think Wefunder is a public benefit corporation and a B Corp, right? So from a mission perspective, it's a big part of why I work here. We want to, get more capital flowing to founders than is currently happening. And especially, I would say, underrepresented founders. So entrepreneurs of color, women, the percentage of venture capital, early stage capital that women get or Black entrepreneurs get is absolutely obscene and bad. We're trying to fix that. If you look by geography as well, like as you mentioned, I'm in Tennessee now. Like California, New York, and Massachusetts get 77% of venture capital funding today. 3 states. So, trying to level the playing field geographically as well as by ethnicity and gender. So they kind of more capital flow to founders, maybe more equitably. And then the other side of the marketplace, kind of enabling more people to participate in the growth and success of startups, like build wealth in that way, but also, just participate directly in building a local economy that they want to be a part of. So that's kind of the goal from a mission perspective. And for the next 2 years, I'll kind of highlight 3 things. One, we are going into Europe in the next few months, which is exciting. Also growth. So as I mentioned, these law changes that happened a few months ago have really made this a lot more interesting to founders now. The cap is increased from 1 million to 5 million. It's just much, much more interesting to founders. And so we're just seeing so much inbound, so many founders that are interested in raising on Wefunder. And so we just have a tremendous opportunity as this market expands. If we can stay as the #1 platform in the space, then there's just a lot of green space for us to grow into. So growth. And then the third thing I would say on the product side, where we see our, kind of the next few months and years taking us, is right now we've built a pretty good platform for getting money into the hands of founders, right? Moving money back and forth. And I think it's an easy way to raise capital, and we're helping founders raise capital that maybe they might have struggled before, or helping them raise more quickly and easily. But we aspire to be much, much more than that, right? Where it's become such a no-brainer for anyone starting a business to raise money on Wefunder, not just because it's an easy way to raise money, not just like money as a commodity, but because if you recruit 1,000 of your earliest supporters and champions and customers as investors and owners of the business, they're going to be more loyal customers, more passionate brand ambassadors, and that is going to do good things for your revenue and help you to win as a company and thrive over the coming years. And we're starting to see that. It's happening kind of anecdotally, but there's so much more that we could do on the product side to step into that, and kind of for us as the platform in between founders and investors to encourage and facilitate and promote that. So in terms of product direction, that's really kind of what we see for the next few years, honestly.
Well, that sounds exciting. And it sounds exciting both for your company, but as well for the founders and the opportunities that lie ahead for them. So,
yeah.
Jonny, how would our viewers and our listeners get a hold of you to learn more?
Yeah, so my email is jonny@wefunder.com, JONNY @wefunder.com. You just email me or find me on LinkedIn. And wefunder.com/raise, if you're a founder, is a place to go and get the download on how Wefunder operates, and some of the pros and cons, and start the process. And then as an investor, if you go to wefunder.com/explore, then you can find, I think we have about 300 companies that are fundraising right now. You can find one near you or in a sector that you're interested in, or and become an angel investor in a couple of minutes for $100, and now you're an angel investor. So yeah, those are kind of ways that folks could engage. And wefunder.com/charter, CHARTER, is because I realize with my accent that no one can ever understand a word that I say that ends in the letter R. But wefunder.com/charter is a place where you can read our PBC, Public Benefit Corporation Charter, which is what we're all about as a company. And for me, when I read that, I was like, I have to come and work for this company. So definitely check that out if you're interested in the mission side of what we're doing.
Jonny, I'm so enamored with what you guys are doing, and we too are.
Well, likewise.
We're a public benefit company too, and it was really important to me to be a benefit company, because I thought, as a business, it's equally as important to have a benefit as it is to make money. Mm-hmm. So that's why we decided to be a benefit company as well. So yeah, I love what you're doing. I'm so happy to be able to share it with our community. And
likewise, Justine.
Thank you, Jonny. So thanks so much for joining us today. And I want to thank our listeners and viewers for joining us today. We're here every Tuesday. If you haven't downloaded our channel, it's Essential Ingredients. We're on YouTube, we're on iHeartRadio, and all the regular channels. So don't forget to check out Wefunder, and we look forward to seeing you again here soon. To find out more about this episode of Essential Ingredients and access show notes, check out Next Gen Chef and choose podcast in the menu bar. If you like this episode, head to iTunes or Next Gen Chef's YouTube channel to subscribe. Learn more about Next Gen Chef, the platform that powers this podcast, by checking out our website, or visit us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Next Gen Chef. You can also check out my Instagram at Justine_Reichman. If you have thoughts about this episode or future episode ideas, leave us a comment at Next Gen Chef's YouTube channel, or drop an email at team@nextgenchef.com. Thanks for joining us.